All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a career that, honestly, keeps our world from falling apart, a job that most of us never, ever think about. We're going to deconstruct the expertise of a health, safety, and environment manager, or an HSE manager.
I mean, really think about it. How do you pull off these massive projects that make our modern lives possible? How do you carve out a tunnel directly underneath a roaring highway? Or lay the pipes that bring water to an entire town without it all ending in disaster? It's way more complicated than you'd think.
Well, the answer lies with a kind of invisible expert, a person whose entire job is to see the worst-case scenario before it happens and make sure it doesn't. And to really understand this, we're doing something a little different today. We're using a real-world CV as our guide to map out exactly what this expertise looks like.
So let's dive in. We're looking at the career of Mohammed Abdelaziz, an HSE manager who's been working on some of Egypt's most complex and high-stakes infrastructure projects. And the very first thing that just jumps off the page is the sheer depth of his experience. We're talking more than 9 years dedicated to managing safety in some of the most challenging construction zones you can possibly imagine. Let's be clear, this is not a desk job. This is a career built right there on site in the middle of all the action.
So where does a career like this even start? You know, every expert has an origin story, and this one begins by building a solid foundation, one piece at a time. Okay, so you can see the path here. The journey kicks off with these foundational roles. First is an HSC officer on huge national projects, then leveling up to a specialist where he starts to zero in on really hazardous work. You see that progression, right? Each step adds another layer of responsibility, building up to that first role as a manager. This is exactly how deep expertise is built, year by year, project by project.
Now, you saw that term confined space, and it is absolutely critical in this world. Think about it. Tunnels, massive storage tanks, giant pipes, basically anywhere that's tough to get in and out of, where the air could turn toxic in a heartbeat or a fire would be completely catastrophic. Mastering safety in these kinds of places, it's totally non-negotiable. So once that foundation is solid, the scale of the work just explodes. We're shifting from learning the ropes to literally leading the charge on massive, critical infrastructure. And this isn't some abstract idea. We're talking about projects that provide essential services to entire communities. As the HSC manager for this project, he was the one responsible for the safety of all the crews building the water and sanitation networks for a whole rural region. I mean, the stakes just don't get much higher than that. And that brings us right up to the cutting edge. The current project uses a really cool technique called microtunneling. This is super high-tech, precision work, and it's all happening right under one of Cairo's busiest highways as we speak. Just to give you a sense of the scale here, the tunnel they're boring has a diameter of 1,400 millimeters. That's about 4.5 feet. So imagine this massive pipe being installed deep underground while the whole city is just buzzing along meters above it. So what is microtunneling? This comparison explains it perfectly. Forget the old way of digging these giant open trenches that shut down roads for months. Instead, think of this as keyhole surgery for the city. It's a remote-controlled, incredibly precise method that barely disrupts anything on the surface. But, and this is a big but, it comes with its own unique, intense set of risks happening deep underground. Okay, so how on earth does one person manage all of this risk? Well, you need a toolkit, and I mean a massive arsenal of knowledge, certifications, and highly specialized skills. This isn't the kind of knowledge you're just born with. No way. It's built on a relentless commitment to learning every single day to stay on top of the absolute best safety practices from around the globe. And get this, the sheer volume of training is just staggering. Over 150 international and local courses. This isn't about collecting pieces of paper. This is a deep, career-long obsession with mastering the craft of safety. At the heart of this toolkit are global standards. These are the blueprints for modern safety. We're talking major league certifications like NEBOSH and IOSH, which are basically the gold standard for safety management. And then you've got all these ISO standards, which set the international rules for everything from worker health to environmental impact. This is what lets an expert speak a universal language of safety, one that's understood and respected anywhere from Cairo to California. But, of course, you also have to be ready for the moment things do go wrong. That means mastering emergency response, first aid, CPR, even firefighting. But you know what? Maybe the most important skill here is knowing how to investigate an incident. Not to point fingers, but to learn from what happened so you can make damn sure it never happens again.
And then you get into these super specific, hands-on skills. This is the nitty-gritty. This is expertise in managing the insane dangers of working high up on scaffolding, making sure massive cranes operate safely, and following the rigid life-or-death protocols for entering those confined spaces we talked about earlier. Each one of these lines is a whole universe of knowledge by itself. So, when you pull all of these pieces together, the career path, the massive projects, the non-stop training, what kind of professional actually emerges from all of this? You know, this single line from his CV summary just says it all. Look at those key words: develop, implement, and supervise. This isn't about just walking around with a clipboard and enforcing rules. It's about having the ability to build a safety plan from zero, lead a team to make it happen, and having the authority to make sure it is followed, period. This whole career journey really boils down to 3 pillars of a modern safety expert. You've got to have the deep technical know-how, an unbreakable commitment to always be learning, and the strong leadership to make it all work on a chaotic, real-world construction site. And this is why it all matters. The true mark of a great safety professional isn't some dramatic rescue you see on the news. It's the thousands upon thousands of days when nothing goes wrong at all. Their success is silent. It's the accident that never happened, the tragic headline you never had to read. And that brings us full circle, right back to our source material. You know, in today's world, even a CV is evolving. This QR code, taken right from the document itself, is a direct link to the professional we've been talking about. It's kind of the perfect modern calling card for an invisible expert. So as we wrap this up, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. From the food you eat to the bridge you drive across every day, our world is held together by invisible experts like this. So, what unseen expertise is working right now to keep your world safe?